dipping your toes in the water is going to get you nowhere. So if you're going to do it, just commit to it. Most people, when they graduate college, they're young enough that they have all the time in the world to screw up because you don't have kids yet, more than likely. But just go all in and try it, because otherwise you might be the guy on your deathbed at age 90 of like, oh, I wish I would have tried that business at 20. So just doing it, I think, and learning that it's okay to fail. It's good to fail because you learn from failure.
What's going on, guys? My name is Ryan Snaadt. It Rhymes with Odd, and you're listening and watching the Rhymes with Odd podcast. We have another great guest for you here today. We're talking all things physiotherapy with Kyler Case, the owner of Metro Movement. Kyler, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Ryan.
Awesome. Well, this is not just another talk with another physiotherapist, chiropractor type person. We're going to talk about other different topics with you today, but I'm really excited to have you on the show and glad you could carve out some time for us today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to dive in.
Cool. Okay, so for people that don't know who you are, can you kind of give us a little introduction on who you are and what you do?
For sure. So my name is Kyler Case. I am the owner of Metro Movement, Chiropractic, and Rehab. It's kind of a long name, so you can just say Metro Movement. Our clinic basically is a movement-based chiropractic clinic, so we'll dive into that later. But we help active adults and athletes get back to the activities they love, free from pain. I'm also a husband and a father of a little boy who's almost 2 years old, and then we have one on the way. So that is new waters to navigate shortly.
Congrats, man. Yeah, it's always fun. Like, business is growing, family's growing. There's always like things going on.
Yeah,
like, whenever I talk to people, like people are always like, "Hey, what's new with you?" And I've always got like huge thing like, "Oh my gosh!" I'm like, it's that time of life when you leave college, you start a business, you're starting a family. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. So to kind of give people a little background, like your business is interesting and unique compared to classic chiropractic. We've talked about it in another podcast, but I would say the industry as a whole, how would you coin the industry as a whole from like a crack them, get them out type of chiropractic versus like what you guys do?
I guess one word is different, and another word would be modern. So it is kind of a new age, like the newer docs coming out of school are getting into this more holistic approach as far as incorporating movement, longer appointment sessions, things that actually will drive long-term results for clients and patients. I think the old, dare I say, old way, traditional way of chiropractic clinics and how they operate is fizzling out. There is a shift happening, which is good for not only the profession, but for the people that's receiving the care. So yeah, I think it's just different and more modern.
Sure. No, I love it. Before we kind of dig into the business and all the different stuff, I think it'd be beneficial for people to hear kind of your backstory. So tell me a little bit about like where'd you grow up and kind of how things started for you.
Yeah. So I am from a small town in northwest Iowa called Lake City, Iowa. Town about 1,500 people, so not quite as small as your hometown, but
sure.
Grew up there playing all sports. My dad was my football coach, track coach, so played those sports.
Was he also the AD, a math teacher?
He is the AD now, but okay. No, at the time he was not.
You see that trend a lot. Small schools are like,
yeah.
"Oh, what's your title?" I'm like, "Well, which one?" There's like 6 or 7 of them.
Yeah. So grew up there and then came down to Grandview University for undergrad. Played football there, battled some injuries, and that's kind of where I really fell into like this style of chiropractic, and it opened my eyes to it. I had a couple ACL repairs, basically freshman year tore it, had it repaired, played sophomore year, and then fall camp of junior year, tore it again, same one.
Shit, same one.
Yeah. So, and then after that, I had enough credits to graduate. So
did you tear in the same part of the ligament, or was it like you ripped the scar tissue, or was it some other part of the same ligament?
Same ACL. It was just ACL. Yeah, both times. Yeah, I remember the second one pretty vividly, but did that and then went to Palmer in Davenport, Iowa, and then went through basically the schooling curriculum, dove into rehab there. There's a rehab department basically there, and you can hang out with the rehab docs there, learn from them. So I spent a lot of time there, and then came back to Des Moines during the last 8-ish months of school, and right around that time, COVID was like ramping up. So I was at the Veterans Hospital finishing school for was supposed to be 8 months, and it turned into like 6 months because we basically got quarantined. Mm-hmm. But it was at the Veterans Hospital working in the pain management department during the end of school. So worked hand in hand with other physicians, physical therapists, chiropractors, etc. And then after that, basically graduated from chiro school and dove in head first and opened my own clinic. When I opened, I was within, so one of the chiropractors for our football team that I had experience with when I was going through ACL rehab was actually the guy that I started with. So he had a room in his office for me. So he's like, hey, come basically start pretty low overhead, he's like, give me a chance, and gave me a space to start. And then now we're in a different location in Urbandale. So that's kind of the progression of where I am and how I got here.
No, I love the story. I think it's interesting too. Like, which sports did you play in high school?
So freshman year, I played basketball, football, track. And then after freshman year, I just played football and track, I think sophomore, junior, senior year.
Sure. Because I would assume like the running side of it was a big part, because that's really who you serve now, is more like endurance athletes, people that run a lot. So I'd figured like running was kind of a big part of your background, or you just decided I'm going to pick this athlete group and having no real experience in it. So
I would say yes, the running part, but I work with endurance athletes now and CrossFitters, active adults, but I'm not an endurance athlete myself, or was not growing up. I was a sprinter, hurdler, and I've just navigated myself towards the endurance crowd. I've done a couple half marathons myself and continue to plan to do them. I'm not in my past life an endurance athlete, but I'm trying to become one. So
sure. Well, and you mentioned going to Grandview to play football. Like, I think it's interesting. We just published Crave Gym's episode with Tyler Robinson. He talks about this like group of people that were athletes and then now they're not. Whether it's you had an opportunity to go to the pros and then you're a pro and then it stops, or you're going to high school and then you go to college and it stops. Mm-hmm. What was that adjustment like for you in terms of like just staying active and stuff? Because obviously football ended when your injuries kind of took over. How did you kind of cope with that and then find fitness again? Because I'm assuming you had to rehab and take time, and it probably made a little adjustment in your mind on how that works.
Yeah. So I actually remember after my second ACL tear, I was going and battling the question of, should I come back for my fourth year? And I talked to my surgeon, my coaches, my family, and ultimately was like, do I want to get a jump start on my career or go play football? And I love the sport of football. I grew up around it forever, as long as I can remember. And basically just made the decision to like forego football, for lack of a better word, and start to get a jump start on the career, I guess. That period was hard because football is all I knew forever, and just sports in general. And then once we got to Palmer and Davenport, basically immediately found intramural flag football. So they had intramurals there, and we played flag football, did that all 3.5 years, whatever we were there. So that was my like outlet to still be around the game. And then as far as like fitness wise, when I got to Davenport, I lost the like competitive edge, right? I still had that drive. So immediately found CrossFit as well, as far as like community and trying to push myself in some capacity every day. So CrossFit and then intramural football. So
sure.
Yeah.
That's great. I used to ref intramural football. I went to Simpson in Indianola, and that was kind of my connection, because I was also a 3-sport athlete in high school, and you go from like that to like, I went to college thinking I was going to play baseball for the school, and then, it's D3, no scholarship money. It's 9 months out of your year. You're not really sure about it. It's like, where's the pros and cons? You kind of have to weigh that too. But I think intramurals is a good way to stay in it. But I always thought like I was a ref, which like seems like fun, but like D3 flag football, there was almost like a fist fight over like a touchdown call. I'm like, guys, this is ridiculous. Like, you guys are taking this way too serious. Did you ever have like some close calls in intramurals where people get a little too hot under the collar?
It get chippy, yeah. I mean, but no, there's no fist fights.
Okay.
Thankfully, there's just, smack talk, which is normal.
Sure. Because is Grandview D2, D3?
It's actually NAIA, so neither.
Okay. Could you get a scholarship, or did you get a scholarship to play there?
Yes. You can get a full scholarship, but they won't pay for your housing. So basically you have to pay for room and board.
Sure.
That's what they don't cover, but
it's not
academic-wise, they'll cover it.
Yeah, it's like getting an apartment, and you'd have to eat anyway if you went to
exactly.
trade school or something.
For sure.
That's really cool. So along this time, you mentioned you're a husband and a father. When did you meet your wife? Was it in PT school, Grandview, somewhere else?
No, so actually I met my wife. She is like kind of like your story, my high school sweetheart. Met her my sophomore year of high school, but we went to high schools 2.5 hours apart.
Okay.
So long story short, I met her camping with a friend of mine, and they grew up as best friends, and they would camp every summer together. So I met her there.
Oh, like a summertime romance.
Yeah.
Dude, your life is a country song.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Find me on the next Toby Keith.
Sure,
cover
there you go.
R.I.P.
Right.
But yeah, so met her sophomore year, and then basically been together for 12 years now, and have one little boy. So.
Sure. So you did the distance thing in high school. Did you guys go to college together, or was it still distance in college too?
Still distance for a while. So she went to USD, University of South Dakota.
Sure. Go Jackrabbits?
Close. Coyotes.
Coyotes. Yeah. Oh, what was the
SDSU, South Dakota State.
Okay.
That's in Brookings.
I got my S's and U's mixed up.
No, you're good. So she went there for a semester and then quickly realized that she did not want to pursue nursing, which is what she was going there for.
Sure.
And she went to a Veda Institute. So she's a hairstylist. And yeah, so she was there for a semester, moved to Des Moines, and then also she's older than me. So that kind of influenced my decision to come to Grandview, knowing that she was in Des Moines and we could be closer because we've been 2+ hours apart for that many years. So.
Sure. Yeah, and it's kind of very similar with my story. So my wife, Paige, is a hairstylist as well. She's also a year ahead of me in school, only 5 months in actual time, but 1 year in high school, it's like, oh, you're ahead.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was done with school before I even started freshman year of college. So then it was like 4 years of her being like, hurry up and be an adult because I'm already like in the workforce and want to move in together and get married and start a family. I'm like, I'm still in college. Let me alone. So I could see that, especially in your case, like her schooling was what, 1.5 or 2 years, and then yours is like 6 or 8 years of college.
7.5, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm sure she was like dragging you by the ear to the altar, like, can we get married already? Come on.
Yeah.
Because did you guys get engaged in college or?
Yeah, my junior year, I think like October of my junior year of college. And then I was graduating that spring. So I was like, okay, we're going to get engaged and then married in June, the year I graduated. So
sure.
Yeah, married in June 2017.
Was Des Moines always the place you guys thought you'd end up, or is this just kind of where you landed?
Yeah, so actually we were really set. Well, I guess I should say I was really set on moving to Colorado. So we got married in Breckenridge, Colorado.
Oh, very cool.
We went out there with her family and I just fell in love with it. And we were going back and forth of, okay, do we go to Colorado and start a practice, or do we come to Des Moines? The thing that really influenced us to plant our roots in Des Moines was our first nephew was born. So she has 4 sisters, or 3 sisters on her side. She's one of 4 girls. And now there's like 8 or 9 nieces and nephews combined. But family kept us in Des Moines, and that was the solidifying factor for bringing us back here.
Yeah, that's really cool. I had Courtney Shaw on a couple episodes ago, and she does like promotion for the Greater Des Moines Partnership to bring people to Des Moines and talent and stuff. And I think family's always the thing. It's like, if you have family here, it'll bring them back and stuff like that too. So that's really interesting to see.
Yeah.
As you were kind of looking at the practices, most people I've talked to that are in this line of work, they usually work for someone else, or they're like not an apprentice, but basically working as an employee, find out all the things they like and don't like about PT, chiropractic, and then go off and do their own thing. You kind of did the opposite. You went straight into business ownership. Was that a conscious effort on, like, when you're in college, you're like, I'm planning to open my own practice, or at what point did you decide this is what I wanted to do?
So I would say I kind of knew before going to chiro school, just because of the mentorship I had when I was in undergrad. I knew I wanted to do what basically he did. And when I got to chiro school, it basically got solidified because I saw a bunch of other people that were graduating, and then they would leave their job within a year, and they just didn't like it, frankly. And
were there clear reasons why everyone was leaving, or?
A lot of it is, so there's a term in like the chiro field that chiropractors eat their young. So meaning you'll go work for pennies on the dollar. You have a doctorate degree, so in your head you think you should get paid more, but you go work for very cheap and then kind of get burnt out, and you go to the next clinic or you start your own. So that's the pretty normal, dare I say normal, like route that some chiropractors take. I think there is changing, and there's more good opportunities that are coming up for people. But after seeing that, it just really solidified. Like, I'm going to go open my own, because if I'm going to make pennies on the dollar working for someone else, I'm going to make pennies working for myself, and then try to grow something that I can be proud of and scale it to kind of what I want it to be. So
sure. So that was when you decided, I'm going to do it all that way.
Yeah.
Because you said you started with a room. Talk me through that a little bit of, like, how long were you in the room? What were you limited on? Because obviously if it's a room like this, it's like, okay, we're going to do wind sprints. Just kidding. You can like lay down and touch all sides of this room. Like, what was that process like?
Yeah. So the chiro's office that I was in, he practices more of like a rehab chiropractor, which is what I would term myself. So he had a squat rack, he had like some dumbbells. I brought a barbell and some weights in there. And then I had a room. So constraint wise, I had everything that I currently have close to. So I was able to practice the way I wanted to right off the bat. I was there for just over a year, I think. And it was all through COVID. And then actually how we found our other space, I'll kind of jump into that. I was working out at the Sandlot at the time. And I met Andrew and Colin Seymour.
Andrew Seymour, yeah. So his wife,
Vanessa.
Vanessa, I shot with Vern as a Flow Body commercial. She was the talent. It's like a Pilates. It's like a, long story short, it's a yoga mat with Pilates bars on it. It's like an invention. And we shot a video. I shot the commercial and she was the talent that was in it. So that's how I know who they are. So I think Andrew's got a new book that just is coming out here soon.
Yeah, he actually just got like the proofs yesterday.
Okay.
So, I met them at the Sandlot and I was looking to get out of my space. They were looking to grow and get into their own space. And we just started basically commercial shopping and we found a space in Urbandale that is really conducive for both of us. And that's kind of how we are there now. And that's like our partnership, so to speak.
So is it more open concept where you're in the gym or do you have like 4 walls and you're separate from it in a different part of that unit?
So I have a full, like, say 1,500 square foot clinic. And they have a 1,800 square foot gym.
Okay.
And it's divided by a wall. I have sliding doors from my rehab area that open up into the gym. There's another door that divides basically from my hallway right when you walk into the gym. So it is separate, completely separate. They have a separate entrance on the back, 2 doors on the back side, different parking lot. So yeah, it's really 2 completely separate businesses, just sharing a bay, if we can think about it like a bay, a commercial bay. So.
And how do you like that flow? Because it seems like, like you said, we need to go do sprints or work on your agility. It's like, let's go in this other room. It's like right there, rather than like go home, run in the street, record yourself, send it to me, and I can look at your mechanics. Like you can see it in real time.
Yeah. That has been really awesome because the doors, I can literally just like slide the doors open. And if I need to go borrow a piece of equipment or put a patient on a piece of equipment that they have, we can do that. And I don't have to wait for them to go to their house or go to their gym and then record it and tell me how they feel. It's like we can do it there and now and get real-time feedback of what they feel and what we can change.
No, I love it. The business ownership side is interesting because you just jumped right into it. Did you have any like business ownership training, classes you took in college, or you just fly by the seat of your pants?
Yeah, literally absolutely nothing. In school, they don't teach you anything as far as like how to start a business and operate a business. So yeah, literally just got into it. And thankfully, part of the reason I was with the chiropractor at the beginning is because he acted as like a mentor for me because he's been in practice for 7 years now. So whenever I had any question business related, I would ask him because I didn't know where to find the answers. Really no business experience. No one in my family is entrepreneurial. Like my dad's football coach, track coach, PE teacher, health teacher. My mom's a 2nd grade teacher. So there was really no entrepreneurial factor, I guess, that I grew up with. I guess besides my grandpa started a grocery store. So,
okay.
Yeah. Outside of that, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Really just flew by the seat of my pants and figured it out. First year, obviously did not know what I was doing. Still sometimes I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. But each day and kind of each year has progressed and I've got mentorship, guidance, coaching, et cetera, just to try to accelerate that process of continuing to learn in the business side.
Sure. Well, and I think it's interesting we can talk about like the getting in the space because a lot of times, like if you start a business cold and you go to a bank and you're like, hey, I need to get in this place. And they kind of like laugh you out the door. Like, dude, you have no proof of revenue. You have no concept. You're going to they kind of pee on your parade a little bit. Like, what was that process like when you were like, yeah, I got my business plan and a book and I'm going to put on a suit and go, like, what was that like for you?
Yeah. So thankfully, we didn't take any business loans, didn't have to seek any outside investing, mainly because I started in a room and I knew that if I could cover my overhead for the first year, like great. And then through that process, the first year obviously wasn't fantastic. It's your first year in business, but was able to save enough to then explore options of different commercial spaces and then pay for build out, et cetera. So no outside capital, nothing like that. It's just been kind of bootstrapped from the beginning. So
I love it because I know a lot of places too, if you find the right place, they'll give you a tenant improvement allowance that you can if you're strategic with it, you can get in and out. Like I know for our place here, my wife did, and her dad did all the work. So we saved like so much money not having to have a GC come in or whatever. So there's ways that you can do that. And then if you don't spend it all, they can prorate it off your rent. Like there's a lot of ways you can kind of finesse your way in so you're not like just biting off a huge chunk of money that you just don't have at the time because you just started, you know?
Yeah. Yep. And we got a tiny TI allowance for the second space, like the current space we're in, but it's basically nothing. So yeah, it was do a lot of it your own. My dad and I, we ripped out all the floors, carpet, etc. So I'd paid to have flooring done. We painted everything. My dad loves to paint, so I'm like, hey, come on, I'll buy you Subway.
Cheap labor. Love it.
Yeah. So he painted everything, and then yeah. So I guess no TI really, very very minor. I wish we would have got more.
Sure.
Because I remember going through the process when we were looking at the space. I had a couple contractors come look, and I got quotes. I was like not expecting for what I thought was small stuff, and I was like, what? No, like I have to go get a loan for this. And then we realized that we could do a lot of it ourselves and cut that way back.
Sure.
So.
Well, some landlords won't let you do your own work, which is hard because I know like when I was looking for places in Polk City and Ankeny, there are places that require insured, licensed GCs to come in, and I'm like, again, to paint, and I'm like, I'm not going to burn the place down with paint. Like this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like the electrical I get or plumbing or whatever, but that was one of the things. Like you just find the right landlord, and you can get a little bit closer, which is always helpful that way. Kind of shifting gears here, I wanted to talk about your marketing practices because I think this is a unique thing that makes you different than a lot of the other chiropractors in the area because, again, it's an aging industry. There's a lot of, I would call them old geezers that don't do this because they have a good client base. They feel they don't need to market because it's like, oh, I have repeat customer base. They have a referral network, whatever. How do you approach marketing so you can stand out in this marketplace?
Honestly, majority of marketing for me has been social media. So Instagram is pretty much the main source. And I think it's just being consistent, like putting out content that someone can apply, like applicable content, or they can digest it and understand it, has been big. As far as marketing itself, I try not to wear it as a badge of honor. And I don't mean to, of like, I've survived like 3 years in practice basically with no real heavy outside marketing dollars.
Like paid ads, billboards, radio, whatever.
It's been like literally social media and word of mouth. And for me, that has gone a long way because majority of the referrals that come in are all word of mouth. And it comes from someone they trust. If they trust the person referring them, they're likely to trust me. And then they go through the process, they have great experience, and then it just kind of waterfalls. And I think business growth off the front end could have been stunted by approaching it that way, like not paying for whatever ads and like trying to just fire it up right away. It's been slower growth, but it's been consistent and steady, and it's with the people that I really enjoy working with. So I'm really happy with how it's turned out. First year, I know, like I think it was like month 3 maybe, I was like, oh, Google ads. Like, let's try Google ads. So I dumped like $4,000 into Google ads, literally no idea what to do. And I got 2 people that came one time, and I was like, I'm never doing that again.
Sure.
But like, that's something I'll re-explore now as I want to grow a team and get into that growth team leadership aspect. There's going to have to be outside marketing that has to be done.
Sure. Well, I think it's interesting because I've done work with clients that we shot videos, and years ago I used to run a lot of campaigns for clients, and the same thing. If they're in a young business, they're like, this isn't like an experiment. It's like if this doesn't 3x ROI, my business is going to fail. I'm like, I can't do this. Like you're rolling the slot machine here. Like that's not marketing. That's like gambling. You're just trying to, well, maybe I'll have something pop off and I'll get people, and then you got to do like gimmicks and sales and discounts. It's like, that's the world that no one wants to be in. Cause like you said, your back's against the wall, and then you're like, well, that was my last $4,000 to spend on, and now I can't eat, like this is terrible. So it's hard to balance that too. Cause I mean, as would you say you're a PT or a chiropractor at trade, or both?
So I am a chiropractor on my license. I get called a physical therapist all the time.
Sure. But you're more of a...
I'm a chiropractor. Like my license and degree is doctorate of chiropractic.
Okay,
yeah.
Very cool. So, I mean, you're a chiropractor. What was the shift to become like creating content and stuff like that? Because I just was on a Zoom call with someone else earlier that they're starting their own business. They can't get new people. I'm telling them, you got to do social content, put out things. They're like, but I'm not a content creator. Like, what is your approach to it so you can put that hat on to help people and not only just grow your marketing and your branding, but then get new people in the door?
Yeah. I would say it started, honestly, at the beginning of my practice. I was forced to because I opened in the middle of COVID. So couldn't go anywhere. There was no events going on. All I had was social media. So basically planted the roots in social media. And I'm like, I'm just going to try to market on Instagram. Just put content out there. I don't know if it's any good, but like we're going to try to do something because that's all I have. And then just growing that to trying to be more consistent with it.
That was your only option, really. It was to like, I have to market myself to get new business. So you're like, this is the natural thing to do, where I think other people would kind of resist it, or it's not my thing, or I'm not like, I don't know how to shoot and edit video. I don't know how to post on social media. Like, I'm just not going to do it. What was kind of your approach to like, say, screw the excuses. I'm going to post consistently and do this because I know it's going to help my business?
Yeah. Okay. I would say my like reasoning for continuing to do it is because when I would increase my activity on social media, I would see an influx in patients. So for me, it was like, okay, it works in some capacity.
So you saw the correlation right away. Okay.
Yep. And then
and some people don't. They're like, I'm just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing if it sticks. You know?
And I would test it. So I would go a couple weeks of like not posting, and then there would be like crickets. And I'm like, oh, maybe it actually does make a difference. And could have been coincidence. I don't know. But I know when I am more active on social media, there's more engagement, and I have more patients or clients that end up contacting me in some capacity because of social media. As far as like making myself do it, to be honest with you, I didn't like social media at the beginning. Like, I don't like being in front of a camera. We talked earlier, like I don't really enjoy hearing my voice. So getting over that was a big hurdle, but also it's just the mindset of like, I have to do this type of thing. Because if I don't really have any other way to market. I do, there's many ways, but like what I'm used to and comfortable with is just throwing something on social media and providing value to someone that might utilize it. Sure.
And that's a superpower, really, because I'll talk to these people that they think of marketing as like, oh, it's this big expensive thing, big scary thing. But I mean, it's a free way to get your message out to people. Why would you not do it? Like, that's what that's the thing I never understand. People don't wrap their mind around that. I'm like, 20 years ago, you couldn't reach people unless you had Coca-Cola marketing dollars that you could run a TV ad, or you could do billboard or radio or whatever. Like, the power is in the hands of people. They just don't realize like how much, and it's free. Like, you don't have to pay you know how many people, how much money Facebook would make if it was $5 a month? Like, crazy. Like 500 million people like paying $5 a month. Like, it's crazy. So I think that's part of it too. It's just they're realizing the powers in literally the pocket. Your power of everything is like in the palm of your hand and your phone. So.
Yeah. And I remember when I first started creating content, and it probably wasn't until recently that I would take forever just to post a reel. And like, oh, is it perfect? You know, like, could I take this word out? Could I change this? And now it's just like, here's a piece of content. Here's some exercises. Put it on there and it's done in 5 minutes. So that's another thing that's been helpful, I guess, is not getting over-consumed by the perfection in it. It's just like, put out the content, just produce. So yeah, it's been good.
What have you seen in your own practices, like the things that get the most attention or the most engagement or the most vanity metrics, if you will, like views and stuff like that for what you post?
Yeah. So I feel like it's a couple months ago, it was Reels. Like, Reels were going heavy, and then all of a sudden they just like shut Reels down. So I've navigated more towards now like swipe posts, carousels. Yep. Those get a lot of engagement, and the carousels in particular. I haven't done one honestly in a while, but when I do those, it's more, you get more comments, I feel like, which is another metric, I guess, because it, I don't know, shows you that people are actually consuming your content and they're reading through, they might find some value in it. As far as like vanity metrics, likes, etc., I've had one reel go viral twice. So it has like 800,000 views on one, and I literally reposted the same exact reel 6 months later, and it has like 1.5 million.
Crazy.
And it's nothing good. Like, you go look at it, and it probably took me 3 minutes to make. Yep. But those, as far as Reels and like vanity metrics and reaching people that way, it was Reels. But now I think it's transitioned more towards swipe post and carousels to get more, I guess, like organic engagement. Sure. From people local versus Reels is, in my head, and from when I look at it, it's a broad reach. So
I think it's cool because it's just really interesting that the people that post consistently will get rewarded in that way. Because like, I did the same thing where I was posting every 2 days the first half of last year. And you see a spike after a while. It's like you post enough, it'll kind of pop off. But I think also knowing that like your audience is on Instagram and that's the main place you want to go. Have you explored other platforms or cross posting the same video, like YouTube Shorts, TikToks, that type of thing? Or do you just really focus on Instagram?
I've dabbled in it. So trying to like cross post to TikTok, I didn't really have a TikTok account and I'm not super consistent with it.
So you're not like hitting the dances.
Yeah, you won't find me out there hitting a dance. But I think the market's different too on TikTok versus Instagram. You might have the younger to middle-aged adults. TikTok might be younger. And for the demographic I treat, it's more in the younger adult to middle-aged adult. And you'll find those on Instagram. And then Facebook, of course, in the upper range of that. So I've tried to cross-post some stuff to Facebook as well now. Just honestly, probably within the past like 2 months,
Sure.
Just trying to do more consistency on Facebook because there is a different audience there that I'm not otherwise reaching if I don't do it.
Sure. Well, there's a lot of tools too. Like you could do like buffer.com if you've heard of that. It's like a social media scheduler. It's free. You can do up to 10 posts that are scheduled. So if anyone is following this page on Instagram or TikTok, you'll notice that I've been really consistent because I use Buffer now. So it's like there are tools out there you could schedule them like, okay, I'm not even going to get on TikTok, but I'm going to schedule them to go out. So then that's helpful just to like post it. Other ones that I've seen people have been talking like Pinterest lately, like Pinterest pins, because they do vertical videos. So if people are looking up stretches for whatever, they could find your stuff.
Okay.
So Pinterest is another thing. But these other platforms like Facebook Reels are paying people now to create. So because TikTok has the creator fund, it's kind of incentivized other people to do that too. So like Facebook, if you have a Facebook page, you can post as Reels there. TikTok is now kind of, I feel like TikTok's kind of changing though, because now they have this TikTok shop. And I feel like everything on my feed personally is like people selling things because you get an affiliate commission and TikTok makes money from it. So I think like that platform, the super virality during 2020 is kind of like subsided in terms of like, there's nothing but value. Now it's like they're trying to figure out how to make money, which makes sense because it's a social platform. Yeah. So it's always interesting like hearing how people do it because for me, like with my business, with doing video production, most of my clients are corporate people. So LinkedIn's like my main platform and people are like, what's LinkedIn? Like people that are on social media every day have never heard of it before. So it's like figuring out where your audience hangs out online, I think is huge because then you can tailor the message to hit those people too. Yeah. And similarly, it's like for me, if I post on LinkedIn consistently, I start seeing a lot of new inbound or people that I call them the LinkedIn lurkers that follow me that have never talked to me. After 3 years, then they'll finally DM me and say, hey, we should do a video. It's like, I don't even know, like you followed me for all these years. I don't know who you are, but it's like that type of thing I think is helpful just to know.
No, it's interesting about Pinterest because literally when I think about Pinterest, I think about my wife finds recipes on Pinterest.
And outfit ideas.
Yeah, outfit ideas, paint colors, like all that stuff. Okay, I might have to explore Pinterest.
You could be the only physiotherapist on Pinterest. Yeah. You could own that market.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I heard that 2 years ago and I had I have like hundreds of reels. So I sat down one day and just posted like everything. I haven't even checked it for like 6 months. I could be viral. I don't even know. I need to
your inbox is probably full.
I need to open it up. That's a problem. So another thing I wanted to talk about quick, we're going to do a lightning round of quick questions here in a second. But the last question before that, what have you seen as like advantages to your practice by doing more that endurance athlete running focus as like an athlete treatment place rather than just hey, you need your back cracked and you're like kind of stiff and you live within 3 miles of this place? Like what has been the advantages of doing what you're doing compared to the latter?
I would say it's the people that come in my doors always have a goal outside of pain relief. And for me, that's fun and the most exciting to work with because pain relief, right? You can take Tylenol, ibuprofen, all these quick things for pain, ice, heat, stim, adjustments, muscle work, all the stuff that feels good. But if your only goal is to get out of pain, you have a ton of options. Like you can go down the other 3 blocks down the road and find someone else. The thing that makes my job enjoyable and unique is the fact that everyone I work with has goals outside of pain relief. So, for instance, like ultramarathoners. Get an ultramarathoner in and they're training for a 100-mile race. That's 2025 now because he got injured last 2023, last year, during the same ultra race. And he just wants to build a base. That's his goal. He's like, I want to be ready to run this race free from pain. I want to get stronger. One of the things we see a lot of in endurance athletes, runners in particular, is lack of strength training. So just incorporating strength into their rehab. And near the end of a plan of care, rehab and your treatment plan should look like a strength training session. So like it should look like the thing you're trying to do. But just on that point, it's like this guy has a goal of running 100 miles. It's not, hey, I just want my neck to feel better. It's like, no, I want my hip to function and feel really good for a long period of time. So we work on that. We develop the plan to progress his running, progressively overload his weights in the rehab area, have a strength training program. So it's like getting all that under one roof to achieve someone else's goal, I think is the main thing for me. And that's the thing I find joy in, I guess, is seeing other people like succeed and do the thing that they are adamant about doing. And it's their driver. It's kind of their like zen in a way. So that's their thing they focus on. And if I can help them do that, I'm the happiest guy in the world. So
Sure. Well, I think just focusing on other things, like you said, strength training or mobility, I think like most people lack in their mobility. I know I did until I started doing forced mobility and CrossFit classes for like 10 minutes. I'm like, oh my God, my hips are like so unflexible, if that's even a word. But it just stuff like that. It's like challenging yourself to do different things is huge. So I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah. The other point I would add too is kind of back on the traditional versus new, like clinicians. Traditional, it's like rack and crack. You're in there for maybe 5 minutes. Hey, how's your day? Lay on the table type of thing. My clinic, majority of all appointments are an hour. So, which is much different than the 5-minute guy down the street. So that's a different value prop too for people. It's like they see that it is different and it's not just an adjustment, and I'm not going to just give you an adjustment and send you out the door. That's something that's unique, I think, to our clinic. We use the adjustments and the stuff that takes a short amount of time as a tool to create a window of opportunity to drive change as far as mobility, strength, et cetera, on the back half of that whole session. So that's the other unique thing I would say.
Well, and it's interesting, like from the business model side, because obviously the crack in, get in, get out, like that's just a numbers game of like get a junior associate, someone in that can crack 50 people in an hour, get it like fast. With this new model, how do you typically see what the customer lifetime value of that person? Because you're working with them longer, and the goal of what you do is to get them better in the hope that they don't need you anymore. Mm-hmm. So how is that the kind of dichotomy in your brain of like, I'm basically working to put myself out of business by making these people so healthy they don't need me anymore?
Yeah, oftentimes what we see is, so I'll work with someone basically from like 2 to 4 months is like typical time range as far as this is their goal and this is where they are right now. This is where they want to get. It might take us roughly that long. Most of the times what we see is they've had such a good experience, they might come in 4 to 6 weeks after that because they want to maintain what they have. If anything pops up, it's like I'm the guy they call. They're coming to see me because the other part of that is 99% of these people still have like races or goals that they're trying to work towards. That doesn't stop. Like they're going to be active forever. And if they've found a place that serves them well, like served them well, got them to where they wanted to go, they trust me, they like the facility, like had a great experience, they're going to come back because most of them aren't stopping their activities anytime soon.
Sure. That's great. Awesome. Well, we'll go into the lightning round now. We'll play some game show music here. Keep it light and fun. So basically, I just have a couple quick questions. Feel free to rattle off quick answers, but if we want to, we can dive deeper into them. Some of these aren't lightning rounds. They're more like slow thunder rounds, like one of those things. So first question, favorite morning drink?
Coffee.
Okay. What type of coffee?
Black.
So do you go to Starbucks and pay $5 for a black coffee?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm a guy that just makes it at home.
Okay.
Primarily. If I had to actually pick a favorite coffee, it's Just Black by Black Rifle.
Okay. Very cool. One of my friends is super into Black Rifle. He's in Kansas City, so every time I'm there, he's always got the little ammo crate of the stuff. Yeah. He's all into that stuff. That's great. What is it? I know people really, like, I wouldn't say kill themselves over this, but in this college times with studying for finals, especially for chiropractic school, I'm sure you had some fun stories. What's the funniest or most memorable study story from college?
Ew. I don't know. I would say, just from a study standpoint, here we go. So first,
I didn't prime you with these, so this is right off the cuff here.
So the very first test. So to preface, going through undergrad, high school, like I was a fairly good student, had good grades, good GPA. So my study tactics at the time for undergrad, I'm like, hey, these will carry over to grad school. I get to grad school, the very first test I had, I got a 57% on it, and quickly realized that this is a lot different. So that was not even study material wise, but that just shocked me. And it was, looking back now, it's kind of funny. I ended up with an A in the class. But yeah, it was just like a complete eye opener. Like, I am not 20 or 18, 19 years old again. I can just study for 2 hours, look at the paper, and go take the test and do well. It was like I had to apply myself and learn how to do that. So for me, that was an eye opener, I guess. As far as my study, like there was times when me and a couple buddies would literally, and this is terrible, but drink like 2 Bang Energies, so 600 milligrams caffeine, and study from like after class until 3 in the morning, and then we'd have an 8 a.m. test. So not great, don't recommend it. But those, yeah, just like we would be delusional, at 3 a.m. you're trying to figure stuff out, and you find funny ways to remember things, and then you remember it for the test, and then it's gone.
Instantly, like poof, from your brain.
You go sleep, go home and sleep, and then you're like, what did I just do? Like, I took a test, blacked out during that test. So
sure. That's awesome. Yeah, I think people always have like crazy study stories, especially if I talk to people that are in the medical field. It's like I feel like anyone that's in the medical field, it's like you just learn to be sleep deprived and perform sleep deprived, and then you go into the workforce and continue to be sleep deprived and work and perform sleep deprived. So I think that's always interesting. The main question: why'd you cut your man bun off, dude? What happened to the man bun?
Okay, good. I'm glad you did some research. You saw a man bun.
He has short hair, people that are listening. He used to have very long hair. What happened, man?
So I cut it off right before I went to the Veterans Hospital, because in my head, I was like, I'm working around other physicians, and they've been in practice for 25 years. They would see a man bun and be like, what the hell is this guy doing? So yeah, I got that chopped off right before. Actually, I was at the Veterans Hospital for a month, I think, before I cut it off. And yeah, the funny part about that is my wife's a hairstylist, and she was afraid to cut it. So she called one of her friends and came over to the apartment at the time, sat me down, was like, she's cutting your hair. I'm like, all right, cool, let's do it.
Did you cry when they cut the first piece off and they flap it around your face? Like...
No, but it's a weird feeling. And like looking in the mirror for the first time after having long hair for 4 or 5 years, it's like, who are you?
Yeah.
But yeah, cut it off because I was at the hospital.
Do you feel like you'll grow it out again, or was that a phase of life that will never come back?
That was a phase. Yeah, I don't think that will come back. My brother, he plays football and he still has long hair, so I can live through him.
Sure.
Like he's got a man bun, the long ponytail, everything.
That's awesome. I know when my son was when he was growing in my wife's womb, I was like, for whatever reason, didn't cut my hair for like 9 months. So I had like super long hair, and everyone's like, what the hell are you doing with your hair? I'm like, I just like, it's like my before I'm a parent thing. I'm just going to grow it out. So I did. And it wasn't the best, but my wife also didn't help me with anything because she hated it. So she's like, if I help you style it and make it look good, then you're going to want to keep it. So I'm just going to let it look like crap, make people make fun of you, and then it'll be gone. So that's really cool. So we kind of touched on this, but what would a class that you wish college would have taught you that would prepare you for life now on the outside?
Business principles, even principles of business and marketing. Like without those 2 things, you can't really grow a business. They need to incorporate that into the curriculum.
At least like how the business of it works. Even if you're a practitioner, it's like, here's how insurance and like how this works and how you code this and get paid for what you're doing. I feel like there's a lot that could be taught. Yeah,
we did get some stuff on like coding, billing practices, but outside of that, like that was it. You got a projection sheet basically, and you project your annual projections from year 1 to 7, and those numbers looked really good in school, and they're like, yeah, like good luck. That was it. Like they didn't help you reach any of those numbers. It was just very, very superficial billing practices, I should say, but they need to incorporate business classes heavily. That sounds pretty consistent. Last question. What's your death row meal? You got 1 day to live. They're putting you in the electric chair tomorrow. What are you having on the menu? I would say filet mignon and mashed potatoes, and probably some ice cream to top it off. Ice cream on the steak? Or no. Yeah, as the butter. Yeah. That's the butter. Just put some ice. I'm dying tomorrow. Screw it. That's great. No, yeah, probably top it off with some ice cream though. Okay. As a side dessert. Very cool. People have asked me that question, and I'm such a foodie. I'm like,
give me in a genre. Like, is it Asian, Italian? What are we doing here? Like, there's too many different food options too. So
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so you're out of the hot seat now. The lightning round is over.
Cool.
We're coming up on the end of this here, and I wanted to talk about some things with the biohacking side. So I'm sure a lot of people have seen, like, it's Gary Brecka, I believe his name is, like human biologist. Like, I feel like biohacking's become this really popular thing right now, which if you're not familiar, it's like red light therapy, cold plunging, sauna, like heat exposure, grounding, like walking barefoot, breath work, that type of thing. This kind of inclusion of this in healthcare, it's like just overall better holistic life and health. What's kind of your opinion on biohacking and kind of the things that people are doing to weave these things together with being a healthier person?
Yeah. So opinion-wise, I think if it provides that person benefit, great. Like I haven't honestly personally dove into any research behind it. I have a little like cheap Amazon cold tub at home. I take ice baths. They feel good. I feel good when I get out. Endorphins are high.
Is it like a daily thing or more of a recovery thing? Like you did a heavy leg day and you just need to zap your legs back, or
more
is
of
it
a daily thing.
Okay.
And I kind of got on the train late because it was really heavy a couple years ago. It was like, oh, ice bath, ice bath, ice bath. So I started to do that, and I like it. Like I personally enjoy it. I enjoy the suffering a little bit. As far as longevity and like the holistic approach to it, I think there's benefit to it. If there's very little downside to it, which I don't know of much downside to it, as far as like sauna, red light, cold bath, etc., then why not try it is my thought process. It's like, if you try it and it provides benefit, you feel better, great. As far as like the two guys that are kind of leading the space as far as biohacking, like Dave Asprey is another one, and Gary Brecka. So I think there will be more of a shift towards it, or continue to be. There's people buying cold tubs for their house and saunas for their house. I would love to have a sauna and a cold tub in my house, but I don't know. As far as I think there's benefit to it. I think at the end of the day, it's better than taking a pill. And if you can do these things instead of taking pills and relying on solely those, great. Like that's my broad, terrible answer. But
no, I love it. Some people have really dove into it. Like I was talking with a client of mine that he was a cancer survivor, and he swore by the biohacking stuff because he's like, he was overweight, he didn't exercise. Now he's like, exercise twice a day. He'll do the sauna, the cold plunge every morning. He feels alive again. And I don't know if it's connected to how he got into remission, but he's in remission now. And it's like, and he lives this stuff. He's like, this is my going to church. Like, if I don't went to the church and prayed and then I got cured and now I'm going to church, like this is my going. He's like, I'm getting up, I'm doing these things every day. I feel great. That type of thing. We talked about Ryan Snaadt, he's my neighbor, and he's also in this space. And one of our neighbors also is a cancer survivor, and same thing, very unhealthy lifestyle, got diagnosed, changed his entire life around. He's in remission now. So it's like, there's a lot of these, I don't know if that's the cure to it, but it's like, if you take your health seriously, there's only benefit that can come from it. You're more clear, you're more mentally acute, aware, you're healthier, you sleep better, you perform better, all those things. So.
Yeah. I love that. And that's amazing. The fact that they're in remission.
Yeah.
I think as far as I guess there's a better answer, for it. I think if cold tubs, the plunges, saunas, etc., allows you to almost reduce stress in a way, that's a great thing, because in my head, the pillars of health are exercise, nutrition, sleep. So that's where you recover, and stress management. So if you can manage those four pillars and those things aid in that, fantastic. Mm-hmm. I think you're moving in the right direction and something worth doing. Sure.
Well, I know I did a bodybuilding show in 2019, so I've kind of gone down the path of like really strict meal plans, no alcohol, no sweets, that type of thing. I didn't do 75 hard, but I've woven some of those things into my daily practices, especially before I had kids. I would get up every morning and walk my dog for an hour and go do strength training at night. So I was doing like 75 hard-ish.
Yeah, 75 soft.
Yeah, 75 soft. There you go. Yeah. So I think that just challenging yourself to do things and doing hard stuff, because then everyone I talk to that's like I would call a whiner or complainer, and I have a lot of them in my life that I have to tolerate for different reasons, but I feel like those people don't ever do hard things in their life. So when you expose yourself, like the first time you get in that cold tub, it's gonna be, oh my God, you're like withering, like get me out of this thing. And then after 100 days of doing it, you've just embraced the fact that this is going to suck and I'm doing it because it helps me. And I think that's a great way to look at life, of like, just challenge yourself of whatever it is. If it's, you can hardly walk a mile, like walk a half mile, work up towards it. If you can run 100 miles, like push that, try to get to 150, whatever it is. Like the striving to become better in whatever part of your health, I feel like can only benefit people. So
yeah, I think doing hard things, I mean, it leads to growth in multiple aspects of your life. Personally, professionally, if you're a business owner or you're just a high producer, like you're going to see change, likely positive change, by pushing yourself outside of your work environment, et cetera. I did 75 hard. I finished it in like December, and
congrats, dude.
One of the best things I did.
Yeah.
And throughout the whole process, it's like, it was just proving to myself that I could do something hard, because I fell into a lull period. Like when we had our son, it's like my routine was gone, and finding that again was like, this is what I needed. I got more energy, stick to a plan, do something hard. And then it's like, okay, what's the next hard thing I can do? Are you familiar with Jesse Itzler?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So
his wife's the inventor of Spanx.
Yeah.
That's how I know him. But
I think you talked about that on a pod once.
Yeah. And he's kind of like into the bio stuff, but also like he's a retired CEO. Like he has the money to do it. I think he hired David Goggins to live with him for a month or something crazy. Like the dude's crazy. I know you're talking about though.
But he talks about like, I think it's the Misogi challenge. So putting one hard thing on your calendar every year, and like that's your one goal. You focus on accomplishing that, and then you just did something really hard that otherwise would not have been done. So I think that's a cool thing if more people would do. It's just put something on that's going to challenge yourself. Sign up for it. Like if it's a race, sign up for the race. You're committed. Tell people about it to hold you accountable. But do something hard throughout your year, at least one thing.
Sure.
If you can, do it every quarter.
I totally connect with your schedule and your everything being off, because the kids will definitely do that to you. And it's like, if you don't make it a priority and put it on your calendar, it won't be. So I think that's a really big thing. Like this is the first week I started coming back to the gym. My wife's been like, hey, like you should come home early. I'm like, I got, like, give me 30 minutes. Like I need this for me so I can show up for you and show up for the kids. Cause it's like, it's one of those things, you just have these non-compromising things in your life that those habits will carry you so much further. Because I talk with my 10-year class reunion this year, went home and saw some people, and everyone's larger than they were in high school. Obviously it's 10 years. That's kind of how it goes. But everyone's like, you just get the slew of excuses of all the stuff. And it's like, yeah, but even if you just made little changes, or you'd kept a consistent habit for a decade, and then it's like almost hard to stop doing it. You wake up early and go to the gym every day. Well, it's almost hard you're going to wake up naturally and you're like, well, I'm already up, so I might as well go. It's like those little things I feel like can carry you really far. Yeah.
You have to fill your cup to fill others. Like, just like you said, you have to show up for you so you can show up for them. The book just came to mind is Atomic Habits. Have you read it? By James Clear?
I've not. Everyone talks about it though.
Yeah. Fantastic book. But as far as like your friends at a 10-year reunion, it's like if they could just change 1 degree. So there's a part in the Atomic Habits book that talks about the trajectory of a plane. And if you were to change the angle of that plane 1 degree, you're going to end up hundreds of miles in a different direction. So even if you change one thing, like if you're sleeping 5 hours a week, or 5 hours a week, well, a 5-hour work week, no 5 hours sleeping. Say you're sleeping 5 hours a day, change it to 7 or 6. Like some small changes. I think a lot of people have a tough time with habits, and especially like New Year's resolutions. They're so drastic from what they're currently doing that it's hard to maintain. So I think, basic principle is do something small, but do it consistently. And then you kind of have the domino effect of, oh, like this is easy now. It's part of my normal day. Let's add something else. And you kind of have it stack.
Sure.
Be the term too.
Well, I think like the biohacking stuff, I see all the stuff you can do. And that's when I'm always like, I need to pick one thing. And what I've been doing is like box breathing.
Yeah.
So
4 seconds, 4 seconds, 4 seconds, 4 seconds.
Which I found hard sitting stationary, holding my breath on the way out for 4 seconds. Almost couldn't do it. I'm like, what the heck's wrong with my lungs? Like I can do this if you hold your breath underwater, but I'm like, to consciously breathe out and then hold it out, and you're like instincted to suck in or whatever. But I would find myself, especially lately with having a 2-week-old and toddler running around, like you start getting worked up about stuff and you're sleep deprived and you just want to crack. So I'd find times where I would literally just like go in another room for like 30 seconds and just box breathe for 30 seconds or a minute or whatever it is. And like your like tension in your head your shoulders relax, like now you're you again. And like, it's so crazy that just focusing on your breath for 5 seconds, or not 5 seconds, like 5 minutes or whatever, changes the entire, like you said, that little adjustment would change your entire day. Now it's like, how's your day been going? Oh man, work's been terrible. Like I got cut off in traffic and I stubbed my toe, blah, blah, blah. Now it's like, if you just did the box breathing in the first thing, now it's not, it's a crap day. It's like, oh, I just had one thing happen, but I course corrected and now I'm fine, you know? So I think that's really huge. I feel like using these things as a tool to get you to a better version of yourself is super huge.
Yeah, I love that.
That's great. Awesome, man. So kind of tying it all together here, I had one last question. For other people that are wanting to get into a business, that they're wanting to start early, right out of college, what would be your biggest advice for someone that's trying to go off and start their own venture, and something that you wish you would have known when you started Metro Movement?
Just go all in. I think dipping your toes in the water is going to get you nowhere. So if you're going to do it, just commit to it. Most people, when they graduate college, they're young enough that they have all the time in the world to screw up, because you don't have kids yet, more than likely. You might be single, might have a spouse, significant other. But just go all in and try it, because otherwise you might be the guy on your deathbed at age 90 of like, oh, I wish I would have tried that business at 20. So just doing it, I think, and learning that it's okay to fail. It's good to fail because you learn from failure. Really just do it. I think there's more opportunity now than there ever has been. Even with social media, people can start online businesses, but like, go all in and just do the thing that you want to do. And if it doesn't work, pivot, try something else, because it might be the third iteration of a business that succeeds. Like if you fail after the first, you'd never know where you could have been. But that's what I would say.
I love that advice. Super great. So for people that are wanting to learn more about you, where's the best place they can learn more about Metro Movement or follow you on social?
Yeah. So Instagram is the best place. It's Dr. Oh gosh, there might be a period in this. I should look it up. I think it's Dr. Kyler _MVMNT. So movement. Just message me there if you want to reach out on Instagram. That's primarily where I spend most of my efforts, I should say, on my phone. Otherwise, MetroMovementDSM.com is our website. And then phone is 515-259-3022. If you're an active adult or athlete and you got any aches and pains and you want to get back to performance, let us know.
Sure. Love having you on, man. Well, I really appreciate it. If you've made it this far in the show and you haven't yet done this, make sure to give us a 5-star rating if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify. Subscribe on YouTube, and make sure to tune into the next episode. My name is Ryan Snaadt. It rhymes with odd, and you're listening to the Rhymes with Odd podcast. Peace.